So a lot of people have been asking me how I create my aesthetic Instagram stories. And the funny part is I do it all on my phone. So that's exactly what I'm gonna be showing you guys in this video. And if you're new here, my name is Torsten Roscoe. I create short form video editing assets for content creators exactly like you. They allow you to speedline your entire editing workflow into a simple drag and drop so you can pump out content in minutes instead of hours like I do and thousands of other creators using my packs. Those will be down in the first link in the description so you don't miss out. Without further ado, let me show you how I create these banger ass stories. Okay, so this is the photo that we're gonna be working for, and what I did is I went and turned this photo into this photo. Looks really dope. I love the color grade and the today's fit. Don't worry, I'm gonna show you how I do this all on my phone. Literally, I do it all on my phone. And then we're also gonna be making this one too. I'll show you how I copy and paste this exact color grade into this one, and it turns it from this to this. Okay, so I only use 2 apps. Most of the time I really just use one. So I use Lightroom and also Photoshop if I'm doing that text behind my head. If I'm not doing any of the text behind my head, I don't use Photoshop. I strictly just use Lightroom. Now I'm pretty sure Lightroom, if you just go on the App Store, I use an iPhone, it's literally everywhere. I think it's free. I don't know exactly if it's free, but I mean, I just pay for Adobe, so I get it. So what I do is I always first correct the exposure and what it looks like, because it kind of looks like it needs a little more contrast. So I literally just play around with these. Like if I think it's too bright, if I want the picture to be super bright, then I crank up the exposure. If I want it to be super like low like this and nice and dark, I'll do that. It really just depends on how you guys want. My biggest key factor, I would say, when you guys are color grading is literally just use your eyes. That's all I do. I mean, that's how the best color grading, and that's how everyone else is doing, is just using your eyes. Now, if you're colorblind, sorry to say, but you might be fucked. But seriously, this is literally all I do. Let's bring up the whites because I like the way that it looks on my shirt. So I do that. Let's turn down the blacks. I usually always turn down the blacks just because it makes just the blacks a lot better. And what you really want to do is make sure that the brights and the blacks / shadows. So the brights are your whites, and then the lows and shadows are your blacks. So you just want to make a huge, like a really good contrast. So you want to make sure that the whites are really white and the black are really black. So then we get a nice lot of like contrast like this is. It also depends on your lighting and everything. Like me, I really have, you can see when I'm talking right now, I have a lot of contrast on my face. Like I have my key light over here, which adds nice highlights over here, and then adds a really good like shadow part to my face. That way I'm getting like more of a 3D look. That's what I always try to do that's a tip if you're trying to get really nice photos. This one I kind of just whiffed it. But now the second thing is I go into my color, which again, this is personal preference. If you want to go a nice like, you know, warm tone, you can. That looks pretty good. But for this one, sometimes I don't even mess around, like touch it, but other times like this one, I want to make this a little bluer. So I turn down the temp. I don't really touch the tint. I do touch the vibrance because I want these colors to really pop. So I want my blue pants to pop, and same with the green in the background. Trust me, it looks a lot better. And then I barely touch this saturation because if I go like crazy, I look orange like an alien, and I'm not an alien, sadly. So I just crank it up a little bit just to help give it a little more vibrant and also make me just look more sexy. Then the next part I like to do is I like to go into effects. I like to add a vignette, so I just kind of crank this. One really quick thing I like to do / hack is I like to turn down the feathering so then I can see how my roundness is. That way you know exactly how the roundness is. So for this, I'm just gonna do that. I want to really have the picture focus on me. So that's why I'm turning down the midpoint and making this kind of like rounder, or less round and more like, you know, like tall. So then it really just grabs me. If I make it like super round like this, it kind of cuts. You can see like it cuts down here, and I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna make this just like that, taller. And then I'm gonna turn back the feathering, and then I'm gonna turn this vignette just like so. And now the picture like really focuses on me. Then the next thing I like to do is add a grain. I like grain in my pictures. I just personally like it. I like the filmic look, cinematic filmic look, and I like just having grain. So you don't have to add the grain. It's personal preference, just like all this is a personal preference, but I like to just mess around with the grain. I don't like to go crazy, but I don't like to go like super light. I like to go like here just so then you can notice it. and it looks good. And it looks like I wanna actually mess a little bit with the colors again. So I'm gonna go back to the colors and hit the color mix. Now this is actually where all your colors can look extremely good. So I always love to mess with the green, so I'll hit the green tab right here. And then if I just mess around with like the saturation, you can see that this green in the background, like you can see that it's just like the saturation of it, the vibrance of that color really pops. So I love to crank this. I don't like to crank it too much. I like to do that, and I like to correct the hue just a little bit. Not like too green where it looks fake. I like to just go a little bit with like green and a little bit, I don't know what it would be, like orangish kind of. Making sure that the dominant color is green, like right here, but it's not too green, if that makes any sense. And then the other thing I would like to do, because my next color that I want to pop is this blue. I mean, it already does a great job, but I'm actually gonna really just kind of leave that and mess around with like the tint a little bit, just so then this navy blue looks really good and it pops out. So I think all that, I think I'm gonna turn down the saturation on my lips just a little bit because it looks like it pops a little too much with that vibrance, but I think overall that is just good. Now, obviously you would go so much quicker if I wasn't talking and everything, but this is how I color grade all of my pictures on my story. I don't use my MacBook. I don't use any of my computer setup, my fancy equipment on here. I literally just do it all on my phone because, like I said, I don't want to take enormous amount of time on this. Like most of the time, like I only reach like 200-300 people, so it's not like a bunch of people are seeing it anyways, and people like it. So now the next thing you want to do is if you have 2 or more pictures and you want the exact same color grade, all you have to do is come up to these little like 3 dots on the top right, click that, it's gonna bring this up, hit copy settings, make sure that this edit is, just toggle this edit like I'm doing right here, toggle that one, that's the only one you need, and then hit the check mark on the top right. Now your settings are copied. Now if you go over to, let's say, I think it's this one, I'll reset this for you guys really quick. If I reset this all, now it's the exact same as if I just took this picture, and then I just hit that same 3 dots in the top right, hit paste settings, and then boom, I get that exact same color grade. Now I would tweak this just a little bit because my fingers are a little too saturated, but overall this is super duper good. Now let me show you exactly how I make this text effect. Right here, you can see in this video, I actually added I actually blurred the background a little bit, and I'll show you exactly how I made this one up here. So let me show you exactly how I did that right now. So the second thing I do is I use Photoshop. So Adobe Photoshop has their own iPhone/phone app. So that's what I use. Now, the way I do this, you can actually see I have a ton of here, is I take that photo. So for instance, we need to start a new one. So we're gonna be creating this one on the right with the today's fit. So I'm gonna hit this blue on the bottom right. You see this blue like plus mark. I'm gonna hit that. I always go to add from photos, and then I'm just going to take that one that we just color graded. Now that we have that, looking good as always, Torsten. Yes, sir. Now what we wanna do is duplicate this layer. So I'm just gonna drop arrow on the bottom right where you see my picture. It's gonna bring up these layers, hit this 3 dots, hit duplicate. Now what we wanna do is make sure we're selecting the top one. Make sure we're selecting the top one by just clicking on it, hit create mask, hit create mask again, and then I want you to just hit select subject, and it'll grab me, and that's all we want to do is just grab that subject. If you got the subject perfectly like mine is, then you can just hit the check mark. If not, I'm pretty sure you can just mess around, hit like quick selection, and you can just like tap things, but I'm not going to do that just because, you know, majority of the time Adobe does a really good job. So I'm just going to hit the check mark, and now we have that masked out. Now all we have to do is add the text, customize it to our liking. So you can come to the bottom right, scroll over, you'll see tap or type layer, tap that, it'll bring this something up. So I just put today's fit, just like so, and I'm gonna click off. I always edit the text option. I always like my fonts. What I do is, and if you guys want my exact fonts I use, I'll leave that video. I'll like ping in the top right over here. It's on the top right for you. I don't know if this is top right or over here. I'll ping that video. You guys can go watch the exact fonts that I use. They're super clutch and they're just amazing. So I'm gonna use this one that's called Inner. I love this one. I also love to make these super close to each other. So I go to the tracking and just crank this baby until they're like almost touching, like so. Always make sure if you're gonna do that different effect or the effect I'm gonna show you in a little bit, just make sure to change this from black to white. Otherwise that effect doesn't work. So make sure that your text is white. Then once you have that done, hit OK. I'm gonna move this to my head, and the way we get this behind my head is simply by coming in the layers, grabbing this, hold it, and drop it behind that mask layer that we have with that black mask. Now you can see it's behind my head. I can just like make this bigger, make it a little smaller actually. Put it behind my head like so. Hit OK. Then we can go to blend and opacity, and then you can do like a nice little effect. So one effect I like to do is this overlay. That's the exact effect I did. Another effect, the other one that I did, was this soft light is good too. It all really depends on what you're working with what kind of photo you're working with. But the other effect I like to do is this difference effect. So you can't really see it on this, but if I put it over here, you can see now that it really like shows this like cool kind of like, I don't even know, metallic or negative effect. So I'm gonna put that back just to where I want it. I'm going to make it the exact same one I did. This overlay, now it's looking pretty sweet. Now the way to get that kind of like blur effect that just adds a little bit more depth and makes this text, like I said, add more depth and really look like it's behind my head. We're just gonna hit that today. So make sure that you are on the text, come over to the effects, click on that, make sure to hit convert. And now Adobe gives us these really cool kind of kind of effects that we can do. I just use the blur effect. I wish Adobe updated this and gave us a lot more, but hey, they're doing their own thing. So I always hit the blur, and then you can see that it kind of adds this like nice kind of behind my head. It's not like outgoing, but it's also like there. It looks really cinematic, it looks really great. And I always just do a little bit just so you can see it's a little bit of a blur, but not, you know, too strong like this where you can't read it, or this where it's too good. I just like to go in between, just like so, and then okay, and then you're done. All you have to do is click on this like little arrow that's pointing up, hit that, export, make sure you're on JPEG or PNG, doesn't matter. I like to go JPEG, and then I go quality at maximum, format is standard, and then I hit export, and we're good to go. And just like that, you know exactly now how to create sexy Instagram stories, just like yo boy, the king, the GOAT, Torsten Roscoe, thank me later. And if you want to learn exactly how I use those cinematic fonts in my Instagram Reels, I'll leave that video right over here. It does a whole breakdown on how I create aesthetic Instagram Reels just like me in just a matter of a few clicks. Definitely go check that video out, and make sure to share this video with at least one of your friends. Catch you in the next video. Peace!